is Danielle Dunlop for Possum Stems. Today I will be creating a card with the Radiant Burst background stencil and the Birthday Fishes stamp set. I started die cutting a stitched circle, and on this circle is where the main part of my scene will be happening. I started with adding a layer of Distress Ink Salvage Patina on my circle, and I made sure that I had a good cover and that it was all evened out. So I had a nice color blend there on that circle. Before I moved on to the next step, I made sure that this layer of Distress ink was completely dry. For the next step, I'm going to use the Radiant Burst background stencil, and I'm going to make sure that it's completely centered here on top of this circle. The medium I'm using with this stencil is Vicki Boutin Prism Glaze, and the color is a blue teal-ish shade with some gold shimmer in it. And there's enough already in the cover of the jar, so I don't even have to go in the jar to get a good amount to apply. And when you have a stencil like this, it really helps if you just follow along the lines of the design, just to make sure that you get the glaze everywhere you want it. Now it's time for my favorite part, the review, and I love how this turned out. We have a little spot there where it started bleeding underneath the stencil, but we're going to cover that up later on. And now again, make sure this gets really dried. The humidity is killing here lately, so it's not easy to get a paste or a glaze dry properly here. It would actually be best to just leave it overnight. But I didn't have time for that, so I just went in with my heat gun and did the best I could. Now it's time to work on my images for my card, and I used the whale, a smaller fish, and some seaweed from the Birthday Fishes stamp set. And I'm starting the coloring here with the seaweed, and I'm using YG01, G24, and G29. And I cover up first a layer of YG01, then add in a little detail with the G24, and then I follow along that line that is in the middle of the stamp with the G29 for the most detailed part. And then I go back in there with G24 again to blend out that darkest green. And then with YG01, I just blend it out entirely and fill up the entire image. I'm going for a purple wheel, and my colors are V12, V15, and V17. And especially with some bigger areas to color, I like to put down a layer first of my lightest color so that the darker colors are blending in better. So first, so my shadow is going to be at the top here of the wheel, and I first put down a layer of V12, then V15, and then V17. And now it makes it easier if I go back into that middle color to blend that shadow out and then fill up the image with the lightest V12. For the bottom part of the wheel, I added in another lighter color, V01, and I first put down a layer of that V01, then I created my shadow with V12, and then I filled up the entire image with V01 again, so that the whole bottom part of that wheel is a lighter purple than the top is. My smaller fish is going to be orange, and I started putting down a lightest layer of Y38 on the back of the fish there and those detailed lines. And then I'm going over it with YR04 and later on YR09, which is my darkest orange. And then I'm going to fill the fish up with the lightest orange, Y38. And for the top, bottom, and back fin, I'm mainly coloring it with the lightest oranges and just add a little bit of detail with the YR09. Now it's time to put my scene together, and the part of the circle where the paste was bleeding a little bit underneath the stencil, that part is going to be covered up with the seaweed that I stamped and die cut, and you basically don't see anything of it anymore. If I would not have been able to cover it up, I would totally have made a different circle for my background, but most of the times you can easily cover it up. For the wheel, I'm going to use some foam squares because I like for him to be the center of the attention, so he's going to be popped up a little bit. So the whale is going to go here in the middle of the circle, and he's also going to cover a little bit of that seaweed. That smaller fish is going to be put down with glue again, and it's going to be right here at the top. I have a stitched rectangle for my background. I didn't glue down the circle yet, but I'm just having it here in the right position so that I can add my sentiment. Once I have my sentiment in place, I'm going to stamp it with VersaFine Onyx Black. And just to be sure, I always like to make 2 prints. After stamping it once, it looks fine, but a second stamp always gives it a more crisp black finish. Now it is time to add my circle to my card front, and I'm using glue for this. Just making sure it's centered there. To add the card front to my card base, I'm going to use foam tape. And I always cut 5 of those strips from a big roll, put 4 in each of the corners and 1 in the middle. Now I'm removing the cover of the foam tape only from those 2 bottom pieces. And this allows me to perfectly center my card front to the card base. Once I'm happy where it's positioned, I press it down, and then I remove the other covers of the rest of the foam tape. And this is my favorite way to get it all centered. So this is my finished card, and I really like when you move the card around and you get different light sources on that paste, how it gives a different shimmer, and you actually can see that bit of gold through the blue. I hope you enjoyed watching this card come together. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.